They're a little bit stretchy. You pass it around the room, you know, to all of our people so you can see what they feel like, right? Okay. So Polo Wraps are typically used while you're working your horse. It does a few different things. The main thing it does is the material being wrapped around their leg helps to absorb some of the, essentially like the energy and the force when the horse essentially puts their feet on the ground. It gets some of it so it dissipates into the Polo Wrap, so they're not getting as much force up into their leg. Another thing it's used for is that little bit of compression, just kind of support the ligaments and tendons and all that stuff. Kind of like a human would wear like a knee brace or something. Also, it helps if a horse tends to hit their legs together. It's kind of that physical barrier, so they're not going to catch themselves. Biggest thing with both Polo Wraps and the standing wraps, which is the other kind I'm going to show you guys, is they cannot get wet. If they get wet, they just soak up the water, and then they're going to do more damage than good. So you don't want to, if you knew you were going to go ride Dusty with the creek, you wouldn't want to have pillows on them. You want to take them off before you get in. If you're going on a trail ride with creek crossings, there again, you'd want to put like boots on your horse rather than Polo Wraps. There's a very specific way to wrap a polo. Biggest thing to think about with a polo is this goes to any kind of wrap. You want it to be consistent throughout the whole wrap. You don't want like one section to be super tight and then the other section to be super loose. As far as how tight to do it, you don't want it so tight that you're going to cut their circulation off. You also don't want it so loose that it's going to fall off. So I say snug, but not super tight. So I actually thought of this trick as I was driving here today, because I realized when I've tried to explain this to people in the past, it's really confusing. So there is a right and wrong way to start your wrap. And what I thought of is, think of it like a toilet paper roll. You know how there's this big competition, or there's a disagreement between whether you have your toilet paper over or under, right?
Yeah.
Okay? So, if we're thinking about your toilet paper holder that's against the wall, Dusty is the wall, okay? So we're gonna do an under. We're gonna do the one that I hate. If this is the wall, we're gonna do this. I hate that. But that's how we know how to start. So, as opposed to doing it over this way, right? So if we're saying that his leg is kind of like the wall, we want to make sure the toilet paper's under, right? So when you're wrapping the legs, you want to start below the knee and wrap down to just below the pastern here. So that's the section of leg that we're going to be wrapping, whether it's the front legs or the back legs. Same goes for all four legs. So you're always going to start on the inside of their leg. So inside, outside. You all get that much, okay? So there again, toilet paper's under. So from there, you're gonna wrap around. Okay. And then from here, you're gonna start slightly angling down, because now you're gonna have to wrap all the way down his leg, and then we'll eventually go all the way back up his leg. So your wrap is going to, in a perfect world, it will end exactly where it starts. Okay. So at the very end, there's some Velcro, and so that always should be in this top section where you're starting.
You always want to go inside to outside, because if you go outside to inside, you could bow those tendons.
So
the opposite of helpful.
Yeah, so another thing to think about with that is, as you're wrapping, each time you wrap, you're pulling tension, but you're only pulling the tension as you're going back towards his tail. Because if you were to pull here and pull the tension going up towards his face, you're going to grab onto that tendon back here, and we can bow that, and that's no good. So whenever you're pulling tension, you're always pulling it back towards the trail, and then just from here, it's just kind of an easy wrap. And then as you're going down, you're going to start seeing that there's overlaps here in the Polo Wrap, okay? In a perfect world, each of those overlaps, you can imagine they're going to go all the way down, it's going to be the exact same size, right? So here, if we're kind of right at about an inch, I'm going to make it exactly the same each time, okay? So, there, then I'm going to make sure that overlap is about the same, pull back towards his tail, come around, make it the same, pull back, back. Okay, now this is where the tricky part gets here. So, as we come down around the pastern, we're essentially gonna start working our way back up the leg, okay? Now, it's not a perfect cylinder per se, right? So, if you angle the wrap correctly, it will sit flush on their leg. So, how you're gonna get it to sit flush against their leg is by, as you come down, you're angling it a little bit here, okay? As you come back around, you'll start angling it up, exactly. You want the slightest, what looks like an upside down V, right in the direct center. That's really small, but your aim is to get that really tiny upside down V as close to the center as you can of their. From here, you start wrapping back up the leg. It's all the exact same rules apply, you're just going the opposite direction, right? So I'm pulling snug as I go backwards. So, if you noticed, this did not go all the way to the top. So, depending on what different brands of Polo Wraps come in different lengths. So if you don't know the length of the Polo Wrap versus the length of your horse's leg that you're wrapping, you may sometimes have to redo it. This wrap is a hair short for him. So next time I would do it, I would make those sections bigger so that it can make its way all the way up to the top and end here. Now, it's not like catastrophic to end there, but ideally you want it to be the same all the way up here. And see, this big section only has one.
So you only see a small gap.
Judy was asking about why I didn't wrap all the way down. So the reason I don't do that is because we want to support all the tendons and ligaments and everything in here, but we don't want to essentially do the work for those ligaments and tendons. So we want to add that support, but we don't want to do the supportive work for the body of the horse. As far as like what direction to wrap and where to start, that same thing applies on the other side. So it's not going to look the same, but if you think about checking all the boxes on a piece of paper, it's going to be the same, right? So when we come around to the other side, it was leg, and you're going to start wrapping towards his head, right? So now we're going to go, so whereas on his left side, we were making the wrap go counterclockwise, now we're going clockwise.
So you'd be going like this.
Yep. So I would start just a hair lower though. So you're not looking and enjoying it. Good. And the very first wrap here is the hardest part because you don't have it tight yet. So it's easy to slip. So you really have to make sure you're using both hands. From here, you're going to pull it taut going back towards his tail. Yep. And then start making your board go down. So get here and then pull it taut going backwards. So see how it slipped around? That's how you know it's too loose. Okay. So I don't know if you noticed, once I got that first wrap finished, I didn't have to hold it anymore. So if you have it tight enough, it's not going to move on you like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Judy.
Okay. So something to think about, keep in mind when you're wrapping, especially all four legs, is that their back legs, the section that we're wrapping, which is mostly the cannon bone here, that's the bone that runs this length, is always longer on the back legs than they are on the front legs. So if you're using, say, one matching set of Polo Wraps, you know that you're going to have to make those go that much further on the back legs.
Okay.
Make sense? So when you guys go to wrap his back legs, you're going to notice, since you're using the same wraps, oh, I'm going to have to make those sections bigger in order to make it go the whole way. Okay? The correct way to wrap the Polo Wrap. If you do it wrong, you'll get to that very, very end and realize your Velcro is on the wrong side of your wrap. So,
okay.
I will show y'all how to do this. So you always want to fold the Velcro onto itself. See that? Okay. So you kind of started your wrap here. From here, I always like putting it on my thigh. I don't know, that's how I've always done it. And you want to make it decently tight and try to keep it like as straight as possible. Because I promise the more clean of a re-wrap job you did, the easier it is to put it back on the horse later. Right? And then you're just going to go all the way down until you get to the very end. So I'm kind of like holding it taut with one hand to make it nice and snug. There again, this is how I've always done it. As long as you're wrapping it the correct direction, it really doesn't matter how you do it. And then now you have your wrap ready to be wrapped again.